Hi, it's Leah Myers from Myers Design Studio, and today we're doing the spring Rainstorm quilt. To make this quilt, you need 4 yards of background, 2 yards of medium blue right here. You need 1 yard of dark blue. These are the dark blue squares. And a 1/4 yard of light blue. And this is my light blue here. It's kind of a seafoam green, I think. It's something like that, the Kona color. It's something like that. I can't remember. Because whenever I fold it, I don't keep the labels, but I should. And they don't print them on the side, on the ends either, so you don't know. And for the background, I use 2 different batiks. So this calls for 4.5 yards of white. I used 2 yards of 2 different batiks that were the same tone. And here's a block. These 2 are different. And also, I ran out of these 2 for some reason. Maybe I was cutting a little too vigorously or I made a mistake. I don't know. But I just need a couple more, so I used a solid Kona color. And I always like to use kind of an off-white or ivory. I tend not to use real stark white all the time, especially if it's a bed quilt, and this will be a bed quilt. I just think that it wears better, right? The ivory color. And I love the batik because it looks like little raindrops that fall. Both of them do. And this has a chain pattern design, which I'll talk about again. In fact, I already talked about this. And we'll just start making that first block and see how long it takes. It's a fast and easy quilt, and you'll really like it. It goes really quickly, and we'll just go through and see how I construct this. And I'll see you there. Okay, I am on the 4th row now on block 16, and I have this little chart. I've marked off the little blocks with some painter's tape, so I don't do the block twice. Don't want to do that. Don't want to do 2 blocks at the same, twice. And I just get my 4.5 inch squares and I start filling it in. And it's real simple. And in fact, I love this quilt because it's different each time. You know how you do a quilt and it's like either 2 blocks or where you have a lot of repetition. This does not have a lot of repetition. So on block 16, I need 3 blue down and a solid row of white. And for this quilt, I'm using 2 different batik fabrics. They were 2 yards apiece, but they were the same tone and same color. And while I was cutting, I needed a few more, so I just cut a few of the light colored Kona, which you can probably see right up here. There's a little bit, but I like the texture of different whites in a quilt. And I'm just following the pattern. This one's a dark blue. I need a light blue, and then another solid row of white. Well, this is kind of an ivory color. You can use white, a really, really light blue, like real pale. That would be pretty. It's up to you on the color. As far as the chart that I have, I'm trying to remember which one has the chart. This one, it's the piece count color. You can either do this in blues or you can choose other colors. It's up to you. But for the rain effect, the blue color is what I chose. And I wrote on the pattern, it's a concept quilt. And I designed this center part to be sort of a chain. Like in some places, warmer places, they have chains that do the rain collecting and channel the rain down a house on the side. And that was sort of the inspiration for this. And I also like the squares, how they interlock with each other. That is just the coolest effect. And the rain, I was envisioning looking up into the sky, but that would be all dots, right? It wouldn't really make sense. So I'm viewing it at the side, like you're watching the rain come down. And that is why I made this quilt. And to sew a block, I do a chain piecing method again. That's the most popular, and these are just squares. A beginner can do this. It is an absolutely easy quilt. A beginner can do it. So if you're teaching quilting and they like more of a modern look quilt, then you can do this. And I'm sewing today on a Necky Supernova Mark II. She's beautiful, and I'll show you some footage of the front right now, of the front of the machine. She's a beautiful color pink. It's interesting how in the 1950s they have a lot of different machines with all these beautiful colors, and it's so pretty. So I'm just picking these up two at a time, and I have problems with losing my place, so I do it this method. I just do two at a time, and because it's a vintage machine, it doesn't have a thread cutter on it like an automatic one that has a little button. I got so spoiled with that in my other machine, my Berninas. So I kind of like the chain piecing method because it uses less bobbin thread, and I don't have to, wind the bobbin as often. So I just chain piece. And the first row and the second row first. That's how I do it. You can decide whichever way you want to do it. When you start making this block, it will be a lot easier. And I broke this down into blocks, the whole design of the quilt. So it would be a lot easier to go in little chunks instead of the whole thing. So after I do the first two rows, I'll snip off the first row. Preferably not the fabric too. It's okay. The fabric. I'm showing you, and I just snip the block in half. That would be great, right? So I'm on block 16, and I have to remember my place and two whites. Okay. And I just double check if I have it right, and then I just go ahead and finish this row right now so I can keep my place. Yeah. I like to keep my place. I don't like to lose my place because I absolutely do not want to get a seam ripper out to, redo anything. All right, and then I do that one. I completed that row, and then I just do the same thing over here. Take them apart, and this would be the second row. So it's got a dark blue. There we go. So white, blue. It's kind of ivory, white, and that, and then I do this row. And I just kind of chain the whole thing. And I repeat the same thing at the top. And I'll show you. We'll look at how long this video is, even though I've been chatting. You can probably subtract the time for that as far as you can gauge how fast this quilt goes. It does go fast. It's huge blocks. These are huge, huge blocks. So it makes a quilt real fast. And if you have someone in your life who likes the modern look, or and you do, it's if you like the modern look, it's a really great quilt for that. For the modern design. And I really enjoy designing quilts. I have several. I've lots of design books that I, over the years, jot down in pencil or pen all my ideas. And when I go on vacation, I'll keep a design book with me, and I'll take watercolors too. Okay, so And I'll tell you about that in a second. So this is the next row, and I just kind of place them as I go. I think it's going to go this way. Yes. Nope. This way. And I just put the rows down as I go. And I just chain piece. Got 2 pieces there. Don't need to. Oops. So hold on. What is going on here? Okay, what was the top row? Somehow I've moved something. Okay. All right, so I have a blue. Oh, I see. It just got stuck on top of it because I was probably gonna sew it. Okay. Ha ha! I'm tripping myself up. So anyway, I was talking about design books. I'll take a watercolor set sometimes, and I'll or watercolor pencils, and I'll look at the landscape around, get inspiration by the nature. I used to in the old days bring a camera, and when digital cameras came around, it was so great because I'd always do photography with film, and you wouldn't know until it was developed what you had. So I thought it was so revolutionary. Okay, so that's the third row, and I'm going to go ahead and just complete it. See how I'm just each time completing the row as I go. And I don't iron until the end because I want to make sure, because that's one step more than I need right now, right? I want this to be a fast quilt. I don't want to have to stop and iron each one at that time, because I want this process. Okay, this is the very top row. So 3 whites and medium blue. And I want this process to be quick, because this is a very quick quilt. It goes fast. It's an easy project. Beginners can do it. Advanced sewers out there, if you need a project and that person likes modern stuff, you can do this quilt really quickly too. So anyway, I've got all of my 4 rows done. Okay, and that I just double check to see if I have everybody in the right place, and I do. And this is when I start ironing. And I brought my big iron out here because I needed a lot of steam. The blue color is a Kona cotton, and Kona needs a little more steam. It feels rougher than the batik fabric, but as you use it on a bed quilt, so I ironed that way, now I've got to iron this way. As you launder it and use it on a bed, it just gets softer and softer. I've used Kona for years. Yes. Okay. And now that way. And we'll just see how long this block actually takes. And so after I finish this block and I sew it, I start the next row. Of course. Did I do that wrong? Hold on. Yes, that's supposed to be that way. Yeah, kind of. Oh well, I'll just. I ironed the seams the wrong way. It's fine. I'm thinking of 2 different things at once. I try to get it all polished up. So, right? Can't do everything perfect, but I strive for perfection, whether or not it occurs. Now the seams go that way. Yeah, so I was talking about Kona. I love Kona. There's a lot of different colors. I have sort of a palette that I work from so that I can blend it into other fabrics that I'm using, because I like the resting point, the space that it gives me. So when I quilt things, I have a place to put like a flower or a butterfly or any other, sort of picture. I remember one time there was a baby quilt in our guild, and no one liked it. Absolutely nobody liked it. It was reds and blues, and there was a lot of solid spaces, and it was a charity quilt. But it had these cute little giraffes, and they had these cute little elephants and stuff. And one of the ladies gave it to me and said, can you quilt this? And I looked at it, and she says, nobody likes it because of the colors, because they were more, primary red and blue. And it wasn't really attractive, like a mainstream type attractive quilt. So I got the idea that the giraffes and the elephants were really cute, right? So I did a really simple line drawing on top of the it was like red and blue Kona blocks that was just plain. And I drew little giraffes and I think I mostly did giraffes, but I know there are elephants in there. And so I made the quilt have a new focal point with the quilting, right? A brand new focal point. And when I gave those, and there were two of them done the same exact way, and I gave it back to the lady that was the head of the charity quilt, and she was amazed. Man, these look really neat. So you can kind of transform things with just having, a solid color in a different way, just by adding something whimsical and fun. I could have quilted hearts or anything else. I do a lot of hearts. I love hearts. A lot of swirls. I've been practicing feathers. I'm not the best feather person, doing feathers. But they're getting better. They kind of look like fingers more than feathers. Even though I can draw it. And that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to line draw that continuous line to practice your quilting. And that process works. If I don't have my machine around, or I'm not quilting, or if I'm with my design book and playing with it, doing designs, I will grab and I'll start doing a continuous line, practicing my skills, because it's just by drawing it, and that works. And I got this from somewhere. It was I can't remember where I got that idea from, but it's not my idea, it's somebody else's. So this is the beginning of the fourth row, and I need to orient these guys in the right area. So 16, that's the bottom. This is the top. And I just double check. Yes, got it right. And I will iron at the end, of course. And I iron these opposite directions. It's easier to get the opposite directions, ironed at this stage than it is later. But we'll just see how long this takes to do a block. And yes, I've been talking, so kind of subtract that. You won't be talking to a camera while you do this. And it's basic. It's just basic sewing. And the neat thing is, every block you do will be a different block. You just follow. It's kind of like a little puzzle. You know, every time it's different. So it's kind of neat and interesting that way. I've actually had a lot of fun doing this quilt. I didn't realize it would be that much fun, but it's extremely fun because it's always different. And as I sew them, I put the block on the row, and bam, it's, you know, done. This Necky Supernova, she's pretty smooth. She's got an interesting throat plate. It's in a round shape, and it's got all the feed dog plates on there, which is interesting. I don't know if that would get in the way, but it hasn't so far, so I've been really pleased. You know, because there's a lot of openings here. I think that it would cause a lot more lint to go down into the machine, though, just to be practical. Okay, and we're done with that block, and it's fast. And let me give it a quick press. I'll do all the seams up. I like to do it the sewing at the end so you can zip through this a little faster. And if you pinned and nested your seams, all of the blocks will, you know, go in really nice. The block units inside. And yeah, I've brought my big iron. It's a Panasonic cordless. I love it. It does tend to turn off a lot, but it heats up real quick, so I'm not really that bothered. So this is block 16. And let's see the measurements on her. I think it's 16.5. Yep, 16.5. Yep, exactly. So block 16. Well, thank you for joining me today making this block. It's a 16.5-inch square block, and I hope you enjoyed this episode of Myers Design Studio. What we'll do next is I'm going to go ahead and finish this quilt out, and I will go over a quilting design idea with you. And so once you've done this, you'll have ideas on how to quilt it yourself. I appreciate you watching. Thank you for everyone who's liked and subscribed, and I appreciate you being here. And I'll see you next time. Bye.